my privilege to introduce our next speaker, Sander van Noordende, the Group Chief Executive of Accenture's Management Consulting Growth Platform. With a background in engineering, Sander's responsibilities now cover multiple countries and industries within Accenture. We are thrilled to have Sander with us today. Please give him a warm welcome. Thank you, Sander. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike, for that kind introduction. And thank you guys in the back of the room. I knew I could count on you. Then I joined Accenture. And that's actually where my journey in Accenture started. And I took a step back and I said, okay, what worked for me? And I would say in summary, what worked for me, it's all about fit and focus. Fit, so how well do you fit in the working environment? And how does that enable you to focus on the work at hand? So let's talk about fit first. When I joined Accenture, and it was actually last week, 24 years ago, October 16, 1987, on the first day I got an invitation for the office party, which was in 2 weeks. So now I had to decide, or rather my partner and I had to decide whether we would go together to that office party or not. I decided to do it, and it worked out fine. Actually, we met a lot of new people who are still good friends and colleagues today. But to get there, I had to take a risk. And I think that's something you always have to keep in mind, is you have to take a risk every now and then. So it's very much about how accepting your work environment is. But I would say there's also a flip side to that coin. And it is, what are you doing to make your work environment feel comfortable with you? And let me tell you a story. I was meeting with a client, someone I'd never met before. We're talking about this project. And somewhere in the middle of the meeting, this man starts telling me, in almost a provocative way, that he is gay, he came out, he has a new partner. And I said, hold on, we're having a business meeting here. I didn't feel comfortable with him telling me that at that moment. So don't get me wrong, I don't think we should lie about it or hide it. But I would say timing and tone are extremely, extremely important. And so timing and tone are important. Let me just check myself here. Because there's two ways in terms of the fit. Is the work environment accepting, and do you make the work environment feel comfortable with you? And I guess that you all have to ask yourself, in my working environment, do I have that fit? Do I feel comfortable? Do I have the confidence? And if the answer to that is no, or not completely, I think you can do a number of things. And I would say the most important thing is talk about it with people in your LGBT network, if there is one in your company. Find a mentor, because mentoring, as we have heard also from the secretary, is extremely, extremely important. But also, finally, if that all doesn't work out, the answer could be, well, I guess I have to leave the company because it's not going to work for me here. So there might be that ultimate conclusion that you have to draw, because fit is about comfort, and it gives confidence, and confidence is what you need to be able to focus on your work. Because focus on the work, that's what business is about. So let's talk a little bit about focus. When I was 3 years with Accenture, I heard someone say, well, if you're not married, you're not going to be promoted to manager. I thought, oh, that's interesting. What shall I do with that information? I decided to ignore it, because it was not in line with my experiences so far. Everything went very well, and the first evaluations that I'd gotten from my manager were good. And you bet I got promoted to manager. Because if the fit is there, you can focus on the work, and then in Accenture and in most companies you get rewarded for the job you do, for the results you produce, and you don't get rewarded for who you are or what you are. And that's how it should be. And my greatest recognition in my career was probably in around 2000, when Accenture was still a partnership. And this is, I think, a good example of fit and focus. I got elected to be the country managing director of Accenture in the Netherlands, where I'm from. And I guess there's no better example and no better example of fit and focus when you get elected by your colleagues to lead the way and lead the growth of Accenture in the part of Accenture you're working for. So that was a great experience. And a couple of years ago, 5 years ago, when Bill Green, our CEO, now our chairman, called me up, and I exactly know where I was because I've told this story many times. I was on the gay beach. I don't always say the gay beach. I was on the beach in Saint-Tropez. I picked up the phone. Sander, this is Bill. He asked me, do you want to lead resources, one of the 5 operating groups in Accenture, and get a seat on the big table? I don't know whether he knew that I was gay or not. Frankly, I didn't care. He probably knew because he's the kind of guy who knows those kind of things. But apparently it was not an issue for him. And that's one thing also that I learned throughout the years is when you come out or when you tell someone you're gay, it's not that people immediately start talking behind your back. Have you heard this? Have you heard that? Did you know, you know? No, I think people are actually quite discreet. So it's okay. It's okay to come out in the work environment. So it's all about fit and focus. Is the workplace accepting enough? Are you doing enough? Does that enable you to focus on the work? I mean, I see many of you think, well, hold on, Sander, well, that's all very nice, but you've been very lucky, the ground was fertile, you got in a great company, and everything went smooth. And to a certain extent, that is true. So what, Sander, would be your tips to me if I am not as lucky as you are and my position in my company or in my work environment is different than yours was? I would have 2 or 3 things to say, I would say. Again, network, connect with people, find a mentor, use also the next couple of days to build and grow your network, get to know new people, to talk about your situation and share experiences. I think that's always number 1. Number 2, I would say, take a risk. You have to take a risk every now and then. Although I would also say, go at your own pace, because there is no right way of doing it. There's only one right way of doing it, and that's your way. But you have to take a risk. And I went to a sales training once, and the sales trainer said, 1 risk per day. Call up that client that you don't dare to call. All that can happen is that he says no. I mean, I would say to this audience, 1 risk per week is probably a good thing to do in this respect. 1 risk per week. Keep that in mind. If there's one thing that you keep from this speech, 1 risk per week. Another question that I got asked is, so tell me, what was it like 24 years ago and what is it like today to be an LGBT employee at Accenture? Well, 24 years ago, I hardly knew anyone else than me in the office who was gay. I sort of over the years, you sort of started to find out other people, and it was fine. I was comfortable with that. But today, when you join the company, you go online, you click on the LGBT network, you see what's going on, you get connected with someone or with the lead in your city, and tomorrow or next week, you can be on an LGBT event, or you can be on an LGBT meeting or whatever. So the connection today is so much easier, it's much more open, and it's just easier to get to. It's still hard though, because also yesterday I ran into one of our colleagues. He is running the LGBT network in Raleigh. And he said, so I said, how many members do you have? He says 1. And he had 12 allies, of course, fortunately. So that was good. But you know, still, we need to get the people over the hump every now and then, but it's much easier to connect. When I joined Accenture 24 years ago, we had partner equality in a few countries. Unfortunately, again, Netherlands was one of them. Now we have partner equality in 40 countries. Again, great progress. Another way to track progress is how people react. 24 years ago, when you would talk about the LGBT agenda, people would raise their eyebrows. Some of them would even blush, get a little bit warm. Now the LGBT agenda is an integral part of our global diversity and inclusion program. And it gets discussed at the highest levels in the firm, up to the board, and I can attest to that because I am in those meetings. So it's really up there as a part of our diversity agenda. Do we have everything right in Accenture? No, of course not. It's a journey. So we're going to focus on doing more for our transgender employees. We have over 600 employees who have identified themselves as transgender. So it's not a small group, 600 people. In the United States, we now have healthcare benefits in line with the WPATH standards, which is great, but it's a first step. We can and we need and we will have to do more. Then we're going to continue to grow our LGBT networks. We're now in 22 countries. We have made great strides in some countries where we have some cultural and sometimes even legal challenges. India, Singapore, and we will continue to stay the course there. But even in countries such as Italy, every now and then we need a little bit of an extra push. So when I was talking to Gianmario yesterday evening about Italy, I promised that I'm going to find him an executive sponsor for the LGBT network there so that he can make some progress as well. Finally, engagement. Engagement of our LGBT employees. In some countries, the engagement of our LGBT employees is better than the average of Accenture, and that's great, that's what we're looking for. In some countries, it's below the average of Accenture, so we need to work with leadership in those countries to close that gap, because it should be at least equal, if not better. So we're doing a lot of things, but it's a journey. And if it's a journey, it's even more important that you have the right spirit in your company, in your organization that you work for. The spirit to create a diverse workforce, and for me that's actually quite straightforward. The world is diverse, our clients are diverse, we have to be diverse, because diverse teams get to better answers. But diversity means nothing if there is no equality. So those two need to go hand in hand always. Diversity and equality hand in hand always. And finally, we are convinced that everybody, every employee in Accenture, LGBT, black, white, man, woman, from wherever, needs to have that comfortable fit in the work environment to be able to focus on the work at hand, to do a great job for our clients, because that's what it's all about in Accenture, and make a great career. So, LGBT friends, in summary, for us as individuals, it's all about fit and focus. And for us as leaders in our businesses, it's all about making sure we have the right spirit in our companies and make sure we have the commitment to lead the journey towards equality, step by step, but relentlessly. Step by step, but relentlessly. Thank you very much.